Vlog on a blog. Tomorrow's news today. Get to the truth. Listen, learn, live. Visit us at yadaya.com.
Welcome to the Vlog on the Vlog. We're delighted to have Roger, you back with us. I don't know if you had a chance to check out yesterday's program, but that was quite a surprise to have JK after 20 years being behind the scenes to see him in his home in Alaska and to hear his voice after all of that time. What a thrill that was.
Yeah, Alaska is just beautiful. I've been there. It's a crazy, beautiful state. You know, I like it. I don't think I could live there, but I love going there.
Yeah, it is a crazy, beautiful state, and I've had a crazy, beautiful relationship with JK for a very long time, 20 years that we've been working together. And boy, it's an extraordinary situation where you work that closely with someone and communicate that often with them and accomplish that much with them, and you've never seen a picture of them, you've never heard their voice. That was the first time. Pretty exceptional.
It's a testament to how introverted we all really are.
Yes, it is. Yeah, and they, of course, the numbskulls of the mother goddess who want to accuse us of being part of a cult. It would be pretty tough to do that if you have a 20-year relationship with somebody. You've never asked anything from them, and you've never seen them. They've never been in your presence. You've never even had a phone call with them.
Right.
And yet you've worked beautifully together in all of that period of time. That's pretty much like, nonsensical, isn't it? They're looking more and more stupid every day.
Yeah. It's like me and a whole bunch of other people. I first got with you on the telephone when you were having the Friday night phone calls. I couldn't see your face. I just heard a voice. And it wasn't until way, way later that, boom, you popped up. And I saw you. I was like, wow, that's great.
Wow. Oh, yeah. We go back essentially the same period of time, 20 years. And, for the longest period of time, we didn't even know really one another. And it was really the falling away of people who were pretending to be what they were not that opened the door for some genuine and open and exposed and mutually beneficial relationships. Changed everything. Yeah. Best thing that ever could have happened was the cleaning of house. Speaking of cleansing the planet of undesirables, this first video here is quite thoughtful. Now, this goes back 40 years or more than 40 years, 5 years at this point. So it's in Germany. But here's a woman. Her name was Buckmeyer. She shot and killed the man who raped and murdered her 7-year-old daughter right in the courtroom. And there was no question that he was the murderer. He was a previously convicted sex offender, child offender. He had to go through chemical castration. He was such a repetitive sex offender. And the police caught him right away, having abducted this girl, having tortured her, having raped her, and then having killed her, and then tossing her body away in a canal. And so there was no question he did it. In fact, he even admitted that he did it, but he wanted to excuse his action by saying that the young girl, I don't know if she's 9 years old in that range.
Seven.
Yeah. 7. Oh, 7. The 7 years old girl seduced him. And that she was the one who seduced him and then threatened to blackmail him, which is why he killed her. So he admitted that he raped her and killed her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so there was no question that he was guilty. The only question was it going to be manslaughter or first-degree sexual assault and murder and kidnap? And because he had been convicted previously and had gotten back out in the German court systems, this woman said, based upon my daughter and all the other young women in Germany, you're never going to do this again. And she took a Beretta 22 caliber and she fired about 8 shots right.
She unloaded on him. Mm-hmm.
Unloaded on him. And so The question is, we're going to look at the pictures here, and then we're going to ask the question: what would you do in her circumstance? Right, the story is true, every bit of it. She actually explained that she thought, since it was absolutely known and proven that he was a prior sexual offender, and that he had reversed chemical castration with additional chemicals, and that he admitted that he had abducted her and killed her, and then he was now obviously lying about her and destroying her reputation in court, that she would defend her daughter's honor, and she went and shot the man and killed him. I know what I would do. In her case, I would have done the same thing, absolutely unequivocally. She was convicted to second-degree manslaughter, sentenced 6 years in jail, which if I had been on that jury, or if I'd been anybody in Germany, I would never, under any circumstances, have tried this woman. But nonetheless, she served 3 years and was released. She fled Germany thereafter, finally returned, and has subsequently died of cancer. That is her story. That is my explanation. I'm a retribution sort of guy. I've gone from being a pacifist on all this kind of stuff and kind of queasy on it to fully adopting Yahweh's point of view, that you do the crime, you're going to do the time. How about you, Roger?
Well, yes, I would. A similar situation happened in the United States in New Orleans. A man kidnapped and raped and murdered another man's son. U.S. Marshal was bringing him back into New Orleans. The father was waiting. He was on a phone booth there in the walkway. As soon as he went past, he shot him in the back of the head, right next to the U.S. Marshal. Guy was tried in federal court in New Orleans and acquitted.
Good. It's a better ending of that story, by a long shot. There's another case in Texas, I believe, where a man saw his young daughter, under 10 years of age. She was being raped by one of his farmhands, and he witnessed the rape taking place. He took a 2x4 in the barn, and he pounded it against the rapist's head, and he killed him. And the sheriff and the district attorney in the county would not indict him.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there are cases where it is appropriate to respond this way. Islamic suicide bombers, I would do exactly the same thing. I wouldn't bother with the trial. You have absolute proof that and you don't really need a trial because they all confess to the crime by screaming Allahu Akbar. So I got no issue with any of that, and I think it's actually moral. What do you think, Kevin? What would you do?
Lots of thoughts came up with this in the way that the question was asked. Okay, first of all, absolutely, I'm 100% for recompense. 100%. Yahweh talks about 7 times recompense, and I'm presuming that means that because what this woman did was not recompense. Okay, it was assuaging her. She says in her statement, "I want him to stop lying about my daughter." She didn't do it to protect. She didn't do it. And trust me, I'm okay with it. I would have loaded the gun and taken and escorted her into the courtroom to do it.
To defend your daughter's honor? Absolutely. With her alibi. Yeah, she did not do it as recompense. She wanted to defend her daughter. That was her purpose. She wasn't trying to protect our job is recompense. Yeah. Yes, our job is recompense.
The other part of that is, I'm going to be really happy that if it is that this being our job, that we are no longer human in a sense, because recompense for this man is rape and torture and then murder, right?
Correct.
That is recompense 7 times.
And then and not murder. He will have to endure the pain
Yes.
of dying, but his soul will never die. He will ultimately be sent to Sheol.
Okay, which is worse. Now,
Yeah.
What committing these crimes on another person does to a person's psyche has to be taken into account.
It does.
And so it's one thing for
And
Malak
not just the
to
child,
do these.
but also on the child's parents and the child's friends.
No.
And that's society.
I'm talking about the person that has to do the recompense.
Okay.
A non-rapist has to somehow rape and then kill this and torture this. I mean, torture this.
No,
Think about that for a second, right?
No, I don't think that's the way it plays out, personally.
Okay.
And I hope I'm right on this, since when you read the responsibilities of the Choter, that be me. I'm judge and jury, shafat, judge and jury in this regard. And God's pretty darn clear that is the role. And so I've had to grow into this because it is not a comfortable role to sit into. Heck, and I'm such a patsy on this kind of stuff that I don't even want to watch movies of wild animals tearing each other apart.
Right.
I don't like seeing death, and a suffering animal bothers me a lot. So I don't like to see anything suffer. And so this is a tough deal. And so I've actually had quite a few conversations with Yahweh about it, read a lot about it. And my understanding is it goes something like this, that Yahweh is very clear in Isaiah 10, speaking of the environment that the Choter is going to operate in, that he is given command of Yahweh Saba, which are the command and control warriors that work for Yahweh. It's the Malak are part of the Saba. He's given command of them. And he's given command not only to rid the planet of the religious, political, and conspiratorial, but also to pursue recompense, which I take to mean that we have the responsibility for organizing this process, for supervising this process, and for making certain that the Shabbat are doing their jobs, but it's they who will do the job.
Yeah.
They're a non-emotional being. They can execute all of this. They can deliver all of the evidence. They can create closure for the souls who were abused, so that the souls who were abused know that the perpetrator who harmed them is getting what they deserve, closure for them, can make certain that the judgment and the determination is fair, and we're responsible for giving them the parameters that they are to do this, and then dispatching that soul to Sheol after they have served recompense and they have provided closure for the other souls. I think there will be a few of these trials, relatively few, where we are contributors to the evidence that is brought to bear. Paul, Muhammad, Hadrian, for example, Eusebius, are all people that I want to be their person. The Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, Adolf Hitler. And I've studied these individuals, and I want to be there as to provide testimony against them and to condemn them. When it comes to the actual application of recompense, I'm not going to be there. Now, I know there are covenant members who are so disturbed by what some of these people have done that they would actually like to be there and oversee it. I'm not that person. And if there is somebody that that's who they think they are and that's what they want to do, I don't have a problem putting them in a responsible position, but it isn't me. So this idea of overseeing the recompense so that the person who has done this, their soul, will feel the anguish of not having any control and being violated. I don't know what methods the Sabbath will deploy to accomplish that. so that it's sevenfold the anguish, but I do know that they're capable of doing it, and it's going to be it's souls that are going to feel that. So it is not a physical rape. It is all of the sensory input that would be the anguish of having no control and being violated in that way, and the horror of being rendered helpless while somebody is abusing you is what's going to occur. The Malak are perfectly suited for being able to do that in a non-physical way.
Yeah, you know, just saying that, what just hit my mind is that it's possible Dode takes religious guilt and things to Sheol and leaves them there, right? So,
but only for covenant members. Only for covenant members.
Yes. But what I'm saying is that just that gives the possibility of an experience being removed from someone. So you take the experience from the victim, okay, like through their eyes, the feeling and everything, and you put that in the perpetrator and then put them in Sheol. And now seven times, you relive what you did to someone else through their eyes over and over and over.
For an eternity. Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah. Okay.
So that would
I'm cool with that.
That would absolutely work. Yeah. Yeah. So you're not going to be an inquisitioner. You're not going to be a torturer.
Yes.
But you're going to assure that the person who perpetrated these heinous crimes not only suffers as a result of them and isn't just sent to the place of eternal separation, but also that the victims have closure. So,
well, they have lost that experience.
Right. And there really are three. Right. There are three judgments being done. One is to determine those who were victims of religion versus advocates of religion. The victims of religion, their souls simply dissipate. We talked about yesterday, Dolly Parton, Sweet Lady. She's definitely not in heaven. There's no Christian ever going to heaven. She had a crime perpetrated against her soul, and so her soul simply ceases to exist. If she could tell people today, she'd say, "Don't be a Christian. I was played for a fool." Now, the person who pulled her into that, who deceived her, that's a different story. That deserves some kind of recompense. And the people who created the religion, that deserves recompense. The local pastors and priests, they deserve recompense. And so that's what's going to happen. But anyway, I think this is an interesting point of conversation and lesson.
The third point I wanted to talk about the nature of punishment is it's also something that's public and acts as a deterrent, right? I mean, that's why it's done. Okay. And so we also losing that aspect moving forward in the millennial Shabbat should be a thing. I mean, these abstract concepts of Sheol and recompense and these sorts of things where, I mean, I'm all for making pedophilia a hanging offense, a publicly hanging offense, because everybody sees the body and sees what happens to a person when they're hanged. Okay, I mean, it's not. There's a reason why executions are taking place behind curtains, and we try to make them humane or whatever, because it's for the people watching, it's for the witnesses, not for the piece of crap.
Yeah, you just have to be careful in that societies have used terror perpetrated on their own people to get people to be obedient. And you can't do that in a free and loving society. Going forward, there won't be these kinds of crimes, because the way that the situation will work is it is very possible for somebody who is part of the mortal remnant of Israel or of the Goyim to become rebellious and say they don't want to be have free will, that they don't want to be part of the covenant, because everybody that's there is either working on behalf of the covenant or working to become covenant. And so somebody that says I don't want that, and they can opt out, and if they keep it to themselves, that's fine. They just go forward, and when they die, they die. But those who try to perpetrate a divergent idea on somebody else in a harmful way, they're given about a nanosecond of it. So at that point, they try to harm somebody, it's nipped immediately, and they're excommunicated. So I don't think you'd ever have the opportunity to actually commit an act of pedophilia during that millennial period. I think that the alarms will go off the moment there is the perception that someone's about to be harmed. So you can harm yourself, you just won't be able to harm anybody else.
Right. Okay. That was the third thing that popped into my mind, is that, the whole nature of punishment is, this is just weird.
This is really weird, but it is it has an element of truth to it. You can play it real quickly, and then I'll explain it. I'll even explain
With
it.
this machine, you will finally get to connect with your ancestors.
What tribe are you from?
We are your brothers from America.
Pleasure doing business, sir. With this machine, you will finally get to...
Okay, so what they're pointing out something that's actually quite interesting, but also with the headlines that is terrible. This is not about black people doing something to white people. There were far more white people enslaved by white people than black people enslaved by black people. Slavery has been a part of human civilization for 6,000 years. And it is deplorable. One of the reasons why God says, I don't like people very much, is because of slavery. And in every civilization, there was a caste system, which means everybody was essentially a slave to the king. Therefore, slavery is, and the deprivation of rights is universal to human civilization, and it's one of the most evil aspects of human civilization. And if you want to judge it as white versus black, then you are a racist and you're missing the entire point. But the thing that matters, know your history. It is true that all blacks in northwestern Africa who were enslaved without exception were enslaved by other Africans. They were sold without exception to Muslims. There were no Christians there. No Caucasians in the sense of Europeans there. They were all sold to Muslims, and they would not have been captured and enslaved if there wasn't a market for them, which the Muslims provided. And it was the Muslims who then provided these slaves that they had purchased wholesale to the European shipping companies. The European shipping companies were wrong. The Muslims were really, really wrong, and the Africans enslaving their own were wrong. It's a whole series of wrongs. But the history of slavery is such that you should never blame it on blacks. Now, is there a high propensity of slavery still going on in Africa? Absolutely, it's horrible. But the principal proponent of slavery today is Islam. So don't make it about black and white. Open your mind, do your homework, understand history, and have an appreciation of what's right and what's wrong. Stupid. Saint Upid. Stupid. Patron saint of economic collapse.
I think he has more than that going on for him.
How the head tweeter missed this one. I think the head tweeter needs this one on Truth Social. He has absolutely destroyed the viability of U.S. currency. Do you know that in the last week, Eyeliner Boy, a four-name boy, also known as the Vice President J.D. Vance, he has been out preaching the destruction of the dollar as the world's reserve currency. Yep. Listen, I didn't believe it either when I read the headline. And so I actually did the research, and I've listened to 3 speeches that he has given where he denounces the dollar as the world's reserve currency. And his thought process is that, well, he's stupid, by the way, but because the dollar is losing its reserve currency status. Trump has destroyed it. Biden gave it a lot of trouble too, but between the last 2 administrations, it's gone, particularly with Trump. It's the reserve currency status that enables America to deficit spend. They have a deficit that's 125, 135% of GDP. And to have the creation of money such that there is still the illusion of solvency. And it's only because of the reserve currency status, because all nations must buy dollars to engage in international trade. It's the greatest con really ever created. If you want to be a con man, having the reserve currency is the ultimate con. And because of the United States doing this, it has been able to have this huge military and this huge consumption economy, ultimately recognizing that the only thing of value that America creates is the dollar. And rather than all other countries having to create products that the world wants to buy to have a viable economy, the US has the crutch of it only has to make its dollar valuable and nothing else. And then it can buy whatever it wants without producing anything of value. So his argument is, because of the crutch of the reserve currency status, America has lost the will and ability to make anything and has become strictly a consumer economy without any productivity, which is causing the US debt to be unsustainable. So his argument is, because it has destroyed the character and the manufacturing ability, the productivity of the country, the reserve currency status is a bad thing. Now, it has done those things, and and America has been exceedingly evil in its manipulation. What happened is, and that gig could have continued, but what America did is they weaponized the dollar. When they stole Russia's 300 billion of sovereign assets, and then Ukraine's sovereign wealth, and then they stole Venezuela's sovereign wealth, and then they kicked people off the Swiss system that they were using, where they would have dollars so they could engage in trade. When they weaponized the dollar, they proved that the dollar was not a safe haven, that it was not a neutral tool that all countries could use to buy and sell. And so every nation that could began to short bonds to back out of the US Treasury market and to buy oil, buy gold instead. Because if you actually look at things like the S&P 500, if you look at anything in terms of stock valuations, and if you look at that portfolio over time, you would say, wow, look, I've made a lot of money. I bought the stock at $100 and it's $200 now. But if you use a neutral arbiter of the value of your stock, gold, for example, what you found is that rather than doubling the value of your investment, you've lost 50% of your investment. Now, if you were to do that with treasury bonds, and you were to say, they bought these treasury bonds, they paid me this interest rate, and so I got more than I bought them for. What you would find on a 20-year bond is that you lost 98% of your investment, because by the time you get your money back, it is worth exactly 2% of what it was when you loaned it.
It's purchasing power. Yes.
Your purchasing power of your investment has been destroyed. And so now there are countries are saying there's no way we're going to invest in U.S. bonds at a 3%, 4%. We raise them to 5%, and even at 5% level, there are no buyers. You could have an auction, no one wants to buy, even at 5%. And at 5%, the interest on U.S. debt is $2 trillion a year, in addition to the deficit, which is $2 trillion a year. So you're at $4 trillion a year that you're adding every year to the deficit because of the interest rate, and 5% won't get it done. No one is willing to give you money for 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years at 5% interest, knowing that in 20 years, what you'll get back is worthless.
Well, 5% just barely keeps up with the CPI 10 years ago, right? I mean,
right. And we don't even measure CPI anymore. There's no pretense of it. It's nothing but a con job. And all you have to do is just look at the relative price of everything next to gold, and you know exactly what has happened. So it is imploding. And of course, the only reason that the dollar succeeded as the world's reserve currency was because of the deal that Nixon ultimately made with the Arab Sunni Muslims called the petrodollar deal, where America promised to shed American blood to protect these thugs that were over these estates with flags, so long as America could intervene and control who they sold their oil to and how it was priced. And now that America has abandoned them and caused great destruction to them with this war in Iran, and now that America has weaponized its dollar, nobody wants them. And so America has destroyed its reserve currency status. So maybe Eyeliner Boy with the 4 names is saying, oh yeah, I don't like that anyway, so that when it fails and America completely collapses, you can say, I told you that was going to happen.
My question is that he doesn't show up with a solution, right? He's just saying dollar no good. He's not saying we need to move to this, right?
No, doesn't have a solution.
Okay. That's
No
because
solution.
I have seen something online about the status of the for lack of a better term, Trump dollar, the Trump digital currency that has received some sort of status from not the Federal Reserve, but from the Treasury about forcing other digital currencies to hold a certain amount of
Trump
bonds.
Currency. Of Trump, yeah. Trump crypto is nothing but a Ponzi scheme. And the Trump crypto, Trump has made a fortune in because he's made the Arab fiefdoms buy that currency. When you talk about, they've invested lots in the American, no, they've invested enormous amount of monies in Trump's graft. But the investors in Trump's crypto have all lost. I mean, lost everything. And crypto at this point is in a major tailspin. Because crypto is as fake as as is the fiat currency. There's no credibility to crypto. Crypto is backed on nothing. There is no backing whatsoever. There's no credibility. There's no real asset. It's why China has recognized there's only one way to have a non-fiat currency that people will trust. Gold. Gold's it. There is nothing other than gold. And so the Chinese have been huge buyers of gold. Now, even saying that, I know there's a lot of people that want to say, can you give me financial advice since you know the future? It says, no, I don't even give financial advice to myself. One of the challenges with gold, of course, is that gold is manipulated by governments to create the illusion that they haven't screwed you over by destroying the value of your currency. And when interest rates on bonds go up and the returns on bonds look more attractive, even the short term, people are played into this notion that I'll sell gold and go into the treasuries because, well, they ticked up the interest rate. So as interest rates go up, gold goes down and interest rates have to go up. Now, all that said, because of the fact they're not finding any buyers, even at the higher interest rate, that all you're going to really get is the inflation of the currency, because they're going to create the illusion of money to buy those bonds by pretense. And by doing that, they're destroying the value of the currency, and therefore gold is the best hedge against that. But they also have the issue of look at what FDR did. He pulled a scam on Americans. He told them that they had to hand over all of their gold, and he bought it at an exceedingly ridiculous low price. Once he confiscated it all, he raised the price and used it to fund his war effort. But so the government's fully capable of confiscating your gold and will put you in jail if you don't sell it to them at a ridiculously low price. And they can manipulate the price of gold. So it's even it is a tough game.
Well, I don't know much about. I'm kind of like Jamie Dimon. I don't know much about economics in the stock market.
Yeah.
But it just seems to me like Trump and his administration is doing everything they can to force a reset.
Yes, they are. Yeah, they want to reset, and he wants to reset it with his crypto. It's just that crypto is nothing but a con job.
Mm-hmm.
So since crypto is nothing but a con job, his reset won't last a year. Now, will there be a great redistribution of wealth during that time? Yeah, likely. Oh, yeah. And will that show, just like COVID, that people are patsies and they're willing to play along and give up their money and transfer it into fake money? Yeah, they will. And will there be incentives like, if you go along with my plan, then all your loans are forgiven. And so people will jump on that until they realize they've just been given a currency that has no value whatsoever. But what's the choice? Because the existing currency has no value whatsoever. And if you don't play along, it'll be back to the FDR period where they ask the first time, they throw you in jail the second time. So that's where we're headed. So yes, there is a Trump crypto that is part of the Great Reset. But the key thing that they want to do is to eliminate all paper money and only have a digital currency that, you listen to Larry Ellison say, people are going to behave because we're going to be watching and recording everything they do all of the time with AI. And so with AI and a digital currency, you have total control over everybody. They put it in the bank, then the AI can shut their account down. They can drain it. They can garnish their wages. They can shut down their credit cards so that they're not accepted anyplace. You're completely controlled. That's where they're going. Yeah, this is a little history of Crimea. Crimea River, Ukraine said, "Oh, we'll never. Constitution doesn't allow us to sacrifice land. We can't do a deal with. We don't get our whole country back. Russia stole it." BS. When Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union, and it was part of the Russian Empire prior to that, and when the Russian Empire imploded, largely because we pulled a disastrous fraud against them. Zbigniew Brzezinski came up with a scatterbrained idea that will rent the Taliban and use Al-Qaeda to kill Russians in Afghanistan. And that bloodbath that we deliver to the Russians in Afghanistan will break the Russian will. And it did dissolve the Soviet Union. It just that it created the mess that we see in the world now, and all the migration of Muslims, the empowerment of Muslims, and it led directly to 9/11 and these wars in Afghanistan and Libya, Syria, and the like. So it was, I'm going to play a game against Russia because we just like doing that. And I'm going to create a problem that's 1,000 times what Russia ever could have been. So brain dead. But during that period, when Russia was dissolving, the Soviet Union was dissolving, they had a right to leave, right to remain clause. And the people in each area were able to vote. They could stay with what was a looser and diminished union, or they could leave. And every individual oblast was given the opportunity to vote. The vote was 75% in Crimea to stay.
As part of
the Ukrainians
the former
voted to leave, and then they forcibly kept or took Crimea. So no, this whole thing of Crimea is part of the Ukraine and the Russians stole it. It's absolute bull. No. People will believe all manner of things, but no, it's not true.
You have Russia over there is having a hard time attacking some of the cities over there. And what's happening is most of the citadel cities, if not all of them, were built in the Soviet era. They're very robust structures.
Yes.
And they're attacking the very structures and fortifications that they built.
Right.
That's why it's going so slow.
That's part of the reason it's going so slow. Yeah, and plus the fact in the eastern oblasts, Russia is trying to protect the ethnic Russians. The last thing they wanted to do is destroy everything, and yet the Ukrainians that are embedded there want to kill the ethnic Russians that were previously, for a very short period of time since '95, were considered Ukrainians. They want to kill them. They've been tormenting them for a very long time, and they want to ruin all of it. And so put Russia in a very difficult position. They don't want to destroy the homeland of their own people, and yet they don't want their people destroyed by these a-holes that are loyal to this Ukrainian regime. So that part's tough too. And the Russians don't want to lose millions of men in this. They'd much rather come up with a way that ultimately leads to the protection of ethnic Russians and creates a buffer and keeps Ukraine from being part of NATO that doesn't cause such carnage. Unfortunately, the West, particularly the EU, is not allowing that. This, the power of mem is what we have to keep in mind here. You can't resist the power of mem. It is destructive, but it's also renewing. It is life-giving, and it is life-taking. And just play a little bit of this just to give people an idea as to what happened here along the Tibet Chinese border, or Nepal Chinese border.
Live यो चाहिँ है गाइस यस्तो लाइभ छ ओहो पुरा ड्याम फुटेर आयो
And it's just really
चाइनाको ड्याम फुटेर आयो रहेछ
devastating. It wasn't rainfall that caused it. It wasn't a dam break that caused it. It wasn't an earthquake that caused it. You know what actually caused this terrible flood?
Glacier.
A glacier. A part of a glacier split off. And when the glacier split off, it dammed up the normal waterfall from that glacier for a long enough period of time that it had this backlog of water, and then that glacial calve broke, and it released all of this. So it was a natural part of the Galatian process that created it. Sad. Anyway,
and because of that, it blows my mind that there weren't more. That is something that someone somewhere had to have seen coming and could have predicted what was going to happen. Hey guys, if this ice dam breaks, we're going to have water that we've never had in this valley in 5,000 years, right?
You would have thought that with as many people as are obviously living here, that somebody would have walked upstream and seen what was taking place and say, "Oh, this is really bad," or send a drone up there or anything to look at it. That the Chinese, the Nepalese, that's somebody. I mean, there's drones all over this world that somebody wouldn't have looked, but no one was paying attention. And I want you to know, water is irresistible.
Yeah. I saw this morning where an Israeli national was missing over in that area.
What's that?
I saw this morning where an Israeli national has gone missing.
Okay. Yeah, we don't even know how many people were killed there, or how many, with different nationalities the people were, or why they may have been in that particular valley. But it's rough. A lot of poverty there too, as you can see. So this is one of the scummiest kids on the planet. And I think just a really disgusting situation. It reminds me of Baron Trump. This is Netanyahu's son. And Netanyahu's son won't play in the IDF. He goes to Miami and lives high on the hog with the protection team and chauffeurs and all that sort of thing. And when you're someone like Trump or Netanyahu, and you're engaging your country in war, and you're taking the sons and daughters of your compatriots, and you're protecting your own son and keeping your son out of it, you're a hypocrite. And so I look at this and the fact that they want to blame that Haaretz journalists are responsible for this because their reporting disclosed where Netanyahu's son was, and they want the Haaretz publication held accountable for that. No, I want Netanyahu and the kid held accountable for a nation that's at war, sacrificing its sons and daughters on behalf of a despot. And the son that is pursuing all of those wars has his son living in Florida with all manner of Israeli protection. That's who needs to be held accountable. Your prime minister and his son.
And how old's this kid? Because this is without even the pretense of, oh, he's going to college. I mean, he is secluded out of the country to be kept
in his
safe.
20s.
It's
in his 20s.
Okay.
He's IDF age.
Well,
he's absolutely, unequivocally, not only should have been in the IDF, but should also have been part of the reserves that have called up. He is, what he has done is disgusting. It's irresponsible. It's a horrendous insult. And the man who is running against him, his son did commit to defending Israel and was killed. And here Netanyahu's son is off partying in Florida. No, disgusting. It's just like Trump saying, I'm going to go to war with Iran. I'm going to go to war with Canada. I'm going to go to war with Cuba. I'm going to go to war with Venezuela. And I'm going to go to war with Russia. And Barron is nothing but insider trading and making boatloads of money while doing nothing. Yes, Miss Leah.
I think the word you're looking for is nepotism.
Yeah, well, it's nepotism. Yeah, it's disgusting.
Yep. Well, way back a long time ago, they had wars. The king or the generals, they were on the field. You don't see that today. The head honchos are in the bunkers. You know, they're in their palaces. They're not on the field. They need to be on the field.
That is correct. In fact, even during the period where democracy was first experimented with in Sparta and in Athens, the people that could vote were the ones that would lead the troops into battle if they voted to go to war. And so they were there, not only themselves, but their sons were there with them. So it's a very different situation we find ourselves in, and it's not healthy. Certainly not fair. So here's the Mossad commentary. And even when they're showing a picture of a destroyed mosque in Gaza, and they talk about all of these 244, I guess it's 244 mosques. I can't say it behind the hat, but a number of mosques, 1,244 mosques that have been destroyed in Gaza. The Mossad isn't smart enough, doesn't have the intellect to make the connection between mosques and Muslims. How could you be that stupid?
Calling them Hamas.
I mean, really, how could you be that stupid? You're saying that Hamas uses them, these houses of worship they use as terrorist hideouts. How could you be that stupid? I mean, Israel, you're almost impossible to defend when you're this stupid.
I think history's shown guerrilla warfare is very successful.
Yeah,
in many places. Yeah.
And terrorism is exceedingly successful.
Yes.
It moves the needle. It's why Machiavelli wrote The Prince to tell popes how to use terror to control people, as opposed to doing things that would have them be respected. Being respected doesn't have enough sway with people, but terror does. Now, while this is true, it doesn't go far enough. We were talking about what's called the Golden Age of Islam. The Golden Age of Islam is not actually presented in this. Golden Age of Islam is that it began immediately upon Muhammad's death. So that tells you a lot. The Golden Age of Islam begins immediately upon Muhammad's death. Abu Bakr and others that had been his chief thugs and led his genocidal terrorist raids immediately decided that Islam had to be imposed on all Arabs. And there wasn't an Arab that have an army. And so a small ragtag group of vicious Muslims was able to subdue Arabia and force every Arab into submission. It's called the War of Submission. Once they had every Arab in submission, they picked their fights, and as they picked fights, they enslaved children, they raped women, and they stole property. And as they stole, they bought more weapons and became more numerous and more vicious. And one after another, for 100 years, they continued this practice until they had gone all the way into Spain and the far northwest corner of Africa and into India, and then up and through the Black and Caspian Seas. And they killed 200 million people. That's the golden age of Islam. It's golden because they didn't have any conversions. All they did was rob people. They raped, they robbed, they enslaved. And so that's the golden age. And this barbarism continued for 1,000 years. It wasn't finally contained for 1,000 years after it was unleashed. And during that time, if you were among the few who they didn't kill and chose not to convert to Islam like the Jews, then you lived in what was called Dhimmi status. You paid the jizya tax. You had no rights. You had no opportunities. You couldn't even look up. You had to go in the streets only looking down. You could never challenge a Muslim, even if he kicked you in the groin. You had no legal rights of any kind. You couldn't own land. You couldn't own a business. You couldn't vote for anything. You had no participation in the society and no protections by the society, and had to pay an egregious tax every year. That's Dhimmi. It's the worst form of apartheid ever perpetrated by humanity. And this was the golden age of Islam. People ought to know the truth. Boy, this guy. Oh, my goodness. This has got to be the biggest piece of shit in Europe. He's Finland. And his entire modus operandi is that in 3 years ago, Finland was let into NATO. I mean, to have Finland, Lithuania, and the other Baltic countries be part of NATO is a direct violation of the agreement that America made with Russia to release East Germany and East Berlin to become a unified Germany. And it is as egregious as because the Russian Baltic fleet is their principal fleet. It's as egregious to the Russians as Ukraine becoming part of NATO. So Russia should have invaded Finland immediately upon them abandoning their neutrality and becoming part of NATO. And then this a-hole, in his every speech, he goes and denounces Russia and declares war on Russia and says he wants the NATO organization that he has just joined to take the battle to Russia. So what is Russia's only natural response? Let's put ourselves back in the situation. You're Putin. You have your principal naval fleet stationed on the Baltic, and it's now surrounded such that you don't even have direct access to it. And it's surrounded by recent NATO nations who are calling for NATO to go to war with you.
Yeah.
What would you do? In the last NATO drills, by the way, naval exercises, they were just right outside of the Russian fleet.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy's every word is to condemn and threaten Russia. What would you do?
Well, I think Putin understands that perfectly well. Finland wants to take St. Petersburg, there's no doubt about it. So what's he going to do about it? That's the question. I wouldn't be surprised to see Finland come under some kind of Russian attack, be it
I wouldn't
economic
just go take it. There's no attack. You just go take it. There's nothing that they can do that Finland can do, that NATO can do.
They can do.
I think
And
we
they don't
figure
even
pol-
realize it. That's the
Mistake.
problem.
I think Putin
Yeah,
will figure
all
out
those
politics.
Finland, Lithuania, all of them, but starting with Finland because they're the most vocal here and the most belligerent. Now, the one thing that's been interesting here is just over because it's the other nation that is also blocking Russian access is Poland. Is that in the case of Poland, while their government continues to be anti-Russian and wants to kill Russians through arms to Ukraine, the Polish people have gone like 80% against this war. They don't want any part of it.
Well, they
The
smell
same
what's
thing is true
cooking.
in Germany, by the way. The German
They don't-
people don't want any part of this war. The people in the UK do not want any part of this war. The French don't want any part of this war. I mean, most of the citizens of these countries know they have no military, and that they know that by causing this failed war, by using Ukraine as a proxy, that they've had to absorb millions of Ukrainians, and they have squandered their economies, they have squandered their militaries, and all the while under sanctions, the Russians have built the most formidable military now actually in the world in terms of being able to fight modern warfare. And they know that if they continue to provoke Russia, Russia will destroy them. But the leaders don't. And so you have to say, why are the leaders promoting suicide? And the reason most people, like if you look at Hungary, the new leader of Hungary is now 24/7, let's go take the battle to Russia. Russia is the threat. Is that by having a boogeyman, they can project all of their failures on somebody else. So they deflect all of their failures and flaws on somebody else. Trump does this beautifully. And the second is that when you declare war on somebody, citizens of a country typically rally around the leader, even if the leader is scum. So those are the reasons they do it.
Well, and the people of the country realize there is absolutely nothing in a war with Russia for them. There is no upside for them whatsoever, right?
No, because a war
they don't
with
wanna...
Russia is an interesting country in the sense that the Russian people will pay any price. They will bear any burden to remain independent of Europe. 25 million in the last World War, pretty much proof, right? And the Russians will go to the mat if you push them. The Russians don't go and invade anybody. You know, it wasn't the Russians that went into France. It was Napoleon that went into Russia. It wasn't the Russians that went into Germany. It was the Germans that went into Russia. So this is the nature of this, and but the Russians will never surrender, ever. It's like the Iranians. The Iranians are not going to surrender either. And so since they won't surrender, you have to say, all right, a-hole, let's say that little old Finland wants to have NATO start a war and invade Russia, and we got nothing. We don't manufacture enough missiles and drones to even play in warfare today, and we don't have collectively even a fraction of the number of troops. We don't have the transportation. We don't have the manufacturing wherewithal to support a war. We got nothing. So what happens if we go and bloody some Russian noses? We keep that up. What is Russia's response going to be? And there's only one of two: that you bloody them to the point that for them to maintain their sovereignty, they have to destroy you, which means you get nuked, or you fail to accomplish that, and they control you because you expended all of your energy trying to destroy them, and they didn't buckle, and now they own you. So those are the only two outcomes. I don't know why people can't figure that out. Nothing to gain here, only things to lose.
Yeah. Well, the only reason it's got started and it's lasted as long as it had was because American and British intelligence and arms have supported it. This guy sees an opportunity. He wants in on it. If that support was pulled back, he wouldn't be making that speech. He's not going to go into Russia alone.
Of course not. No, Finland's got nothing to offer.
They got nothing.
Lithuania's got nothing to offer. Poland's really got nothing to offer. Romania's got nothing to offer. France has nothing to offer. It's obvious that the UK has nothing to offer. Germany has nothing to offer. They've got nothing. Italy's got nothing to offer. What in the hell are they talking about? What in the hell are they going to do? They couldn't marshal a military. First, they couldn't raise a military to go attack Russia, and they couldn't project them even if they could, and they couldn't equip them if they could actually raise a military. And you talk about installing a draft in these countries. You know the rebellion that they would get if you were to impose a draft, and you're saying we're doing the draft because we're going to send your ass off to Russia. They cannot build a military. They can't equip the military, and they can't marshal the military transport it into Russia. So what are they going to play with? Are you going to play with missiles? Or if you're going to play the missile game, the Russians will beat you every way from Sunday. You're going to play the interceptor game, the Russians will beat you on that too. You're going to play the drone game, the Russians will beat you on that too. You want to play the atomic game? Well, everybody loses, but the Russians will beat you at that too. What do you have? Why are you so belligerent? You've got nothing to offer. You've got nothing. God, shut up. So in this situation, there's a reporter, evidently a young reporter, who asked the alcoholic weekend newscaster, why would you be sending more and more troops, U.S. troops, to the Middle East if you didn't intend to use them? That's a really good question, right? Why would you continue? Because America's continued to build up its armed forces in the region. Why would you continue to deploy them if you didn't intend to use them? And so, rather than answering the question, he demeans the questioner and said, "Don't let me talk to you something about, son. If you're going to lead a military, you cannot tip your hand to what you're going to do to your enemy. You have to deliberately conceal what it is that you intend to do." So if I was that young man, I'd say, so what are you doing here? What are you doing here? This is a press conference in a free country where the taxpayers are paying for you to do your job. And we're here to do our job, which is to ask, what are you doing in your job? Because it looks like you're really screwing up in your job. And what you've just told me is that everything you say is going to be deceptive, that you're going to lie. And so is that what we're doing here? Did you come here to deceive? And so we're all just wasting our time, sir. That's how I would have answered that. The young man didn't have that moxie. But you can play just a little bit of this just to hear how obnoxious he is.
The Middle East serve in this conflict?
Well, just like the previous question, it's sort of
No, we're not getting enough volume on it.
No, it's
don't tell your enemy what you're willing to do or not do, and don't tell your enemy when you're willing to stop. Especially an enemy that likes to hide in bunkers and try to hoard their missiles and hope they'll wait you out. So,
can you hear it at all? I can barely hear it.
A little bit there. Yeah, don't you don't tell your enemy, particularly an enemy that hides in bunkers and likes to torture people. You don't tell them what you're going to do, son.
Right. I guess Trump.
So what are we doing here? What are we doing here, there, old man? Are we here just to hear you lie to us so that we can parrot your lies to your enemy? And what made them, by the way, our enemy? I know they're your enemy, but what made them our enemy? What gave you the right to deploy our resources on this enemy of yours? And why are we here if your intent is to deceive, sir?
There is no plan.
That part through.
There is no plan. This whole thing about we could attack in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, at the president's discretion. There is no plan. They don't know. That's why he can't tell them anything.
Well, what he's telling them is, I'm lying to you.
Yes, absolutely.
Because the truth is not in our interest. So I'm lying to you. That's why we're here. So why are we here? If you're just going to lie to us, why are we here?
Right.
I guess Trump didn't get the memo because he announces everything. Tells exactly what he's going to do.
Well, of course.
You know,
what he announces, of course, is confabulation. So what he announces is only true in his own little sick mind.
It kind of reminds me of the little bighorn in Custer. You know, Custer pulls up, sees the enemy camp, and they talk to the scout, and he says, "We're going to attack without mercy." The scout says, "Well, General, they know we're here." Custer says, "Well, yeah, I know, but the attack without mercy is always a surprise."
Okay. Yeah, I've been there, boy. I've studied the Battle of Bighorn. That was Custer was one stupid SOB, and all of that, and the Sioux really gave it to him, and they were absolutely justified in giving it to him. Well, here we are. The Ukrainian specialty is bribes. The Ukrainians were chosen as the blunt tool to go off and kill some Ruskies because they were easy to bribe. Well, they're still easy to bribe. It just takes a lot more money to bribe them. This was another one of Zelensky's pals with hundreds of millions of dollars of U.S. money, and you can see what it bought. It'll end up buying, a villa in the south of France.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rolling suitcases full
of currency,
of cash. Right. It's and
now,
the wife was caught with
who's
this.
guilty? Who's guilty? The one that stole the money, or the one that provided the money?
Oh yeah, right. Provided
both,
the money.
So the U.S. CIA that the money was marshaled through is absolutely more guilty than the Ukrainians who stole the money, because they knew the Ukrainians were going to steal the money. So what in the world were they doing? And if you have to bribe somebody to go fight for you, what are they? I mean, you're mercenary? Great for you. America loves proxy wars. That's been its thing.
Yeah, my cousin Dave's got a coke habit. I don't loan him money. It doesn't matter if he's hungry. I don't loan him money, right? I mean, it's the same thing. They know.
They know. Yeah. Yeah, there's another one here, just to show it just briefly. It's just the, as I say, the Amendment Unstoppable.
Look at that, the entire hillside.
Wow, what disaster. Just literally in minutes, everything is gone.
I can't imagine being that close to it to film it. You know what I'm saying? It's like you see it coming and you're like, well, how much more is behind it? I need to get uphill. That's my only thought is screw the film.
Yeah, the person that's filming this is on, so you can see on the top of that building. And it has that galvanized tin roof. And obviously this building the foundation of this building is immediately adjacent to that torrent. So the person that's filming this can't go anywhere.
Well,
right. What are they going to do? They're not going to go down below at the lower level of the building and try to walk, to the next building. If they saw it coming, they could maybe have made it up the hill further, but you saw what happened to the hill. The hill's also collapsed. So if you're on top of the building, there's no place for you to go. You might as well film it, because you don't know if you're going to survive or not survive. If you survive, you've got interesting film. If you don't survive, what's the matter? You spent the last moment of your life filming how you're going to die. I'm not sure it matters one way or the other. We showed this yesterday. I just want to bring it back up again. Pastor, president, protector, our nation under God. I will save America. Trump in gold, and he's walking on water, and all of this. The sun and the background, the 5 stars, as if he were the general. He's wearing robes as if he is a a Catholic preacher, I guess, but with the Trump MAGA hat and literally walking on water like he's Jesus. The single worst thing on this planet is Babel. This is Babylon. It's the integration of religion and politics. It is the single most destructive thing on our planet. The most deadly, destructive, deceitful, and damning thing is the integration of religion and politics. That's what this is. This is pure Babel. This is the very thing that God is calling his people away from. Trump is the very embodiment of Babel, which is the very thing Yahweh is calling his people from. Come out of her, my people, Babylon. And he's holding a Babel. Bible and Babel, same word in Hebrew. Which, by the way, he's never read.
He got that dead God on a stick hanging around his neck, doesn't he?
He does.
It couldn't be more obvious. Yeah. But there's so many blind.
You are the biggest fool of all if you are motivated by the integration of religion and politics. It's the one thing God hates most of all. Ukraine. On this day, August 26th through 28, 1941, 23,600 Jewish women and children, old men, were murdered, not by Nazis, by Ukrainians. Look at the helmet on the guy with the rifle there. Does that look like a German helmet to you? You know, the way it came down over the ears and then came back up. Does that look like a German helmet to you? It's not, is it? Those are Ukrainians. It's Ukrainians that murdered the Jews.
This thing,
600.
The text goes into more detail about how the invention of the sardine method, and goes to describe about how this was done. I mean, they were stripped naked. They were told to, and then to lie on the bodies that had been shot previously. 23,000 people. I know there's not that many. I mean, they obviously have that many bullets because they plan, but why can't they get them to use them all at once? You know, I mean, this, you know, the old Westerns where
stripping
dig
people
your own
naked,
grave.
the humiliation, right? The humiliation of it. This is typical Ukraine. Ukraine perpetrated pogroms on Jews where they took young babies and beat their brains out against the wall in front of their parents. They were savages against Jews centuries before the Nazis gave them the green light to go do this on this day.
Yeah.
Ukraine is the most despicable nation on this earth. And for America to have partnered with the Ukraine and bribed Ukrainians to go kill Russians is one of the biggest disgraces in the history of the modern world. This is Ukraine. These are Ukrainians. This is what they did to Jews. Strip them naked one at a time. And then after humiliating them, they put a bullet in them. And then they tossed them into trenches.
It says the ground moved for days.
As they continued to suffer and die a slow death. Yeah, it's this is how despicable the Ukrainians are. I mean, it's this notion that John McCain and Lindsey Graham, Victoria Nuland, George Bush, Barack Obama, sleepy Joe Biden, and Trump all supported this idea of using Ukrainians to go kill Russians, knowing that this is Ukraine, is unforgivable. I will personally make certain the recompense on all of those assholes is excruciating, including the Ukrainians who did this. every one of those Ukrainians and every American who chose to deploy them to go kill Russians, I'm going to hold accountable. I can guarantee you that. This is reprehensible. And all of you in America that think that Ukraine is the victim here, and that Russia is the aggressor here, go to hell. Boy, you are so stupid. You're a waste of breath. Good grief. Come to grips with reality. It's like the Poles that say, yeah, it wasn't our fault that that all of the major concentration and death camps were in Poland. We had nothing to do with it. It was Nazi-occupied Poland. It was the Nazis who did all of this. Bullshit. It was your Roman Catholicism that created the anti-Semitism and the hatred of Jews that made you the perfect environment to establish these death camps. And now you want protection from Russia? No. Not in a million years. Recompense, baby. You did this. You deserve the consequence.
Well, they're getting a little bit of the consequence because, I mean, 50% of their population's been fed into a meat grinder, you know, and now they're getting ready to feed the other 50%. So
the thing that really bothers me a lot is that Judaism was conceived. The modern form of Judaism, the Haredi movement, the Haredi cult, was conceived right here in Ukraine. This is the birthplace of Haredi Orthodox Judaism, right here in Ukraine. So Jews, you are your own worst enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, when you will see her face as Trump is saying that the Epstein files were a product of Obama and Comey, and they all made them up, and there's nothing true, and they fabricated every mention of him in it. It is so repulsive, and you can see her finally saying, "What the fuck am I doing here, man?
Mm-hmm.
This man is hideously evil. What am I doing?" So you can play a little bit of this. So you're not going to hear much from him because it's too soft from him. But
just a very quick briefing, and in terms of the credibility of the different things that they've seen, and I would say that, you know, these files were made up by Comey, they were made up by Obama, they were made up by the Biden. And we went through years of that with the Russia.
Look at her eyes. Look at her eyes. I don't feel sorry for you, whore. You were a huge part of the problem. I have no sympathy for that whore. Now, this person that posted this said, "There's the moment I knew that MAGA was over and Trump was bullshit." MAGA is not over. MAGA is the most destructive force in the world today. It's allied with Satan. And because Trump is Satan incarnate, it's far from over.
Mm-hmm. It's going to metastasize.
Worse than people can possibly imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And this whore was hugely responsible for it happening.
Well, the song was appropriate.
Yes.
Sounds of Silence. That's a pretty dark song.
Yeah, it's a pretty dark song. Yeah, the words of the prophets are written on the subway walls. Yeah. Sounds of silence. Not enough people willing to stand up. Tell you the truth. And boy, you tell people the truth, and they come out and just attack you. They're vicious, particularly on X. The copper confabulator. He's Satan in a suit. So Satan in a suit, he's the new SS for the Fourth Reich. Satan in a suit, SS.
Any day now, I expect him to come out in a military uniform. I'm surprised they haven't done it yet.
Oh, yeah. So he can mimic his hero, Hitler, or Stalin, or Mao. Yeah. Well, that is his uniform right there. He can't wear a uniform actually because he has a deferment. He has bone spurs.
That is correct.
He's Satan in a suit, man. That is his uniform. You're looking at Satan in a suit. Mission accomplished. How many times did he accomplish this mission in the war that he has lost and the war that he can't end?
That's just of his objectives that he has been able to articulate. I mean, no bomb. Well, we know they have a bomb. They have to have a bomb at this point, right?
They have to
open the strait, right? Strait's closed to any. I mean, unless you're China or Iran, the strait's closed to you, right? I mean, what bomb them back to the Stone Age? I mean, destroy their currency. None of it. It's mission accomplished. If only it was that easy, they could just float away.
Oh yeah,
no.
You can't even declare a victory and leave in this case because leaving the war is instant death to America because of the reserve currency and bailing out of the Middle East. So you leave the war, it's instant death to America. You continue the war, it's instant death to America and the world. This is actually pretty funny. If only it was this stupid, though, that would be great. And of course, at the time, Aisha was 6 years old and he was 66. But she does actually come out. Aisha says, it's always interesting that every time we have a disagreement, Allah is always in your head with the answer, isn't it? So Allah certainly seems accommodating of all of your peculiarities, doesn't he? When he wanted to add the additional child sex player into his harem, she actually said, no, that's not part of the deal. Why would you add another child into your bed? You have enough already. And he then says that Allah condemns you for that. And Allah says that his prophet can have whatever he wants. And and then the Quran goes on to say that if you don't get in line and support Muhammad, that he will replace all of you, send all of you to hell, and find far better wives for the prophet than you are. Yeah, Allah was always in his back pocket. So this is a play on that. It's kind of funny. You can go ahead and play it.
Hey, you. Want to make love with a super sexy stud?
Honestly, I'm exhausted.
If you refuse, I have the right to hit you.
Where did that even come from?
Allah told me.
Yeah, right.
Look over there.
You do not have the right to refuse your husband. It is your duty.
Okay, I changed my mind.
You're gonna feel like you're riding a winged donkey.
34 seconds later.
So, did it work? Perfectly, thank Allah. Can I get my payment now? Oh yeah, I almost forgot. You'll see, this one never says no.
The goat's a liar.
That goat's a liar.
It's a liar.
All right. We'll just leave that right where it is. So here's the new boy toy that's the head of Hungary. He claims that Russia is a threat. And only took regime change to make that happen. Of course, the EU made certain that that this regime change happened. We can't have a fair election, of course, in the EU. But politicians prevail by casting aspersions on others. That's what they do. They actually take their guilt, their own foibles, and they slather their opponent with their own weaknesses. And it creates confusion. This not only deflects attention away from their hideous motives, but it also causes people who are unthinking to rally around the liars when there's a threat, a perceived threat by the boogeyman that they are creating. This is how that works, and this is what they're doing. And if you fall into the trap, then you've been played for a fool.
Yeah, they just keep getting the regimes that want to go to war with Russia, don't they? Doesn't matter who's replaced. They're more
Hungarian Empire and all of the wars that they started. And Europe is just a cauldron of men at war. They've never known peace.
This fellow was the CIA's pick to win over there. So
yes, he was. Yep. And it's not a win, it's appointed.
You're right. Yeah.
So this is Glenn Dyson again. He is saying that, and he is actually a good man when it comes to recognizing what's going on. He's a good man. He's just unfortunately surrounded by all of his guests are anti-Semites. But Mertz, he says, we must get out of this climate of gloom and resentment, this widespread discontent that has been paralyzing our country. So Dyson is saying, so the solution to all of Germany's problems is to stop whining about Mertz's policies and warmongering and his delusions about authoritarianism. So that would be like Trump saying, in this next election, you shouldn't vote to be antagonistic towards me or to show any retribution to me. That America's problem is the hatred of me and your slime and you're paralyzing your country if you're showing resentment to me. That's what Mertz is essentially saying. But when you admit that your country is paralyzed and your country is in a climate of doom and resentment, and you're the leader of that country.
Truman had a plaque on his desk, didn't he?
And the buck stops here.
Right. I mean, it's like, come on, who else are you going to blame?
Yes, like Trump says, I could solve every problem in 15 minutes. I'll solve them before I even am inaugurated. And now, 2 years into his term, he's still blaming Biden for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
So this report is that there's a record outflow from the U.S. military, and that a record number of U.S. military service members are leaving the U.S. military due to Trump's illegal orders, many citing the killing of innocent people in the boats off the Caribbean, and others citing bombing schoolgirls in Iran. And all while the U.S. is trying to find ways to legalize stealing more vessels at sea and confiscating more national assets.
Yeah. I have a feeling that their motivations are less on altruistic ideas like Trump's making us commit war crimes and shooting up boats is bad, with civilians in it. I have a feeling they just don't want to be fed into a meat grinder on Carg Island. I think
I'm sure there's a lot of that. And I'm sure that now that they realize that they signed up, if you're in the Navy, for conditions that wouldn't be allowed in any prison. The conditions in a maximum security prison are not nearly as bad as the bunks, the toilets, the showers, and the food on a naval ship. And so now that they realize that that's the case and that the U.S. is fighting a war that cannot be won, that they're put in a position where they could be fed into the meat grinder. So I'm sure a lot of them just come to their senses and said, this was a really stupid thing that I signed up for. I was fed a pile of lies, and obviously I don't want to play this game anymore. At this point, you could be a conscientious objector to the U.S. military on these grounds and get out of your the term, and everybody should do so. I mean, it's the smart thing is to leave your commission in the U.S. military.
Get while the getting's good.
Get while the getting's good before there's no getting.
Yeah.
Before you're deployed in America, killing Americans.
Oh.
So here's George W. Bush, a man that I knew quite well. And here he is announcing the beginning of the Ukraine-Russian war. And the Ukraine-Russian war did not start in the 2020s. It started in 2008, where he said that the Ukraine had supported his efforts in this unbelievably stupid war on all false pretenses in Iraq and Afghanistan. And so he was praising them for assisting and making a bad situation worse, which was really stupid and dishonest and grossly immoral of George W. Bush and both of the Afghani and the Iraqi invasion. And then he is saying that as a result of that he's going to include them in NATO. And he knew that with the Ukraine border so close to Moscow, there's a 0% chance that Russia would accept that. And there'd be world war as a result of this move. But here is the dunderhead leader of the United States. He is telling us that he's starting a war with Russia. And it was back in 2008. So for you idiots that think that Russia was the aggressor, yeah, check out your history.
So we spent a lot of time talking about NATO. First, I do want to remind people that Ukraine and the NATO alliance have built a strong partnership. Ukraine is the only non-NATO nation supporting every NATO mission. In Afghanistan and Iraq, Ukrainian troops are helping to support young democracies. In Kosovo, Ukrainians are helping keep the peace.
Yeah.
Ukraine now seeks to deepen its cooperation with the NATO alliance through a membership action plan. Your nation has made a bold decision, and the United States strongly supports your request.
Wow. That's the
In
start
Bucharest this week
of this war.
I will continue to make America's position clear.
You don't need to listen to it. He declared war on Russia right there. That's the start of the Ukraine war, 2008.
Wow.
You don't think so? You're just uninformed or irrational, or you're a patriot and you had got no common sense. That's the start of the Ukrainian war.
Where's the receipts? There was one that shows the timeline on when the United States agreed that it would never extend.
That's
NATO
that's the Baker
document.
It's another post further down.
But
yeah,
I mean,
that's
that
the
was
actual copy of the Baker document.
Mm-hmm. And it was before this.
Secretary of State saying that America will not move 1 inch closer to Russia with NATO because you have done this very, very good thing of giving up control of East Germany and unifying Berlin. And for that incredibly marvelous gift to the West hereby commits that it will not move NATO 1 inch closer to Russia. And there's been, 20 new memberships of NATO,
right.
all closer to Russia.
And I wonder why they don't trust us.
Has there ever been a treaty with anybody that the U.S. has kept?
No, we don't do that. No. We're like Muslims in that way. So this is 80% of the buildings in Gaza. 80% of the buildings in Gaza are destroyed, and only 3% of the population has been killed during the war. So he wants to say, Dr. Malouf, that he happens to be a Christian, unfortunately. So no matter how he wants to frame it, it's not genocide. Oh, yes, it is. But not of Muslims. That's genocide of Jews. By doing that thing, Israel committed suicide. So, no, there is no genocide of Muslims in Gaza. But by doing this to Gaza, destroying 80% of the buildings in Gaza, Israel committed genocide on itself. That is the thing that I warned Israel about the morning of October 7th of 2023. I went on the air to talk about it. I wrote a letter. It became a chapter at War with Religion in the first volume of Goddamn Religion, posted free online. You can listen to it. You can read it. And I knew Israel was going to do this thing and that it would destroy Israel, and it did. And now I'm here to tell you about it, and you still can't figure it out. Israel is completely isolated from the world. They're condemned by the world for doing this thing. They were played into doing this thing. This is what the Muslims in Gaza wanted Israel to do, because they knew it would be suicidal for Israel. And Israel was so stupid, they played right into it.
Yeah, 2 out of 3 olives, 10 million Jews. It's going to be
15 million worldwide. And God's talking about the number that will be part of that remnant in 2s and 3s and 4s and 5s. And those aren't millions. They're not even thousands. All right. So this is Harvard. And so Harvard authorized a woman to read from the Quran at the graduation, and read a verse that emphasizes submission, surrender to Allah, which is to be a slave to a false god. And she was allowed to do that while wearing Muslim garb at the Harvard graduation. Now, what's amazing, of course, is that Harvard was established as a Christian seminary. But beyond all of that, those who should teach, indoctrinate. Those who should know are ignorant. Those who claim to be smart are stupid. To promote Muslims and Islam in a Marxist institution says that the professors and administrators running that institution are brain dead. That they're complete, immoral, ignorant hypocrites. That's the facts. They are undeniable. If you have anything to do with Harvard, I'm telling you that the professors and the administration are ignorant, irrational, and grossly immoral, utter and complete hypocrites.
Utterly
I know
immoral
more on this subject than anybody alive.
They're top.
Challenge
they're
me.
top issues.
Go read Goddamn Religion, and then you write me a note.
Mm-hmm. They're top issues. Women's rights, and yet this is what they're
Total
okay with.
deprivation of women's rights, submission to Allah, and where Allah says women are deficient in intelligence and have no rights, and they allow this piece of shit to go on at Harvard. I mean, we are the enemy. America, you destroyed itself. You completely corrupted an entire generation, maybe two. People can no longer think. You not just lost the moral compass, you trashed it.
Oh,
Kosher, you're a piece of shit too. And I would love to be able to support you, Kosher, because you try to support Israel. But your brain dead promotion of Netanyahu is moronic. He's not a war hero. He destroyed Israel. He betrayed Israel. Under his tenure, Israel has become the most vulnerable, isolated, and hated country on earth. And you want to praise that man. It is undeniable. Under his tenure, Israel has gone to be the most isolated, vulnerable, and hated nation on earth. And you want to praise the man that made that so. By destroying Gaza, he destroyed Israel. By attacking Iran, not once, but twice, he made certain that Israel has no future. You're just so wrong, Kosher, that it's pathetic. I pity you.
yeah, and the fallacy of you either stand with Israel or you stand with terrorism. I don't do either one of those things. You know, I wish Israel
I do
would
stand.
shoot.
No, I stand with Israel, and because I stand with Israel, I'm opposed to Netanyahu. Because I stand with Israel, I'm opposed to Kosher. Because I stand with Israel, I'm anti-rabbinic. I hate Judaism because I stand with Israel. And because I understand that 99% of terrorism is inspired by Islam, of which I'm the foremost expert on the planet, having written the 5 volumes of Goddamn Religion, I did so to protect Israel. So I don't just stand with Israel. I've risked my life to support Israel. And that is why I am so opposed to you, Kosher, to Benjamin Netanyahu, to the rabbis who are so destructive, to the very thing that I've risked my life to save. Next, please. Oh, here is Margaret Thatcher, the great patron of Ronald Reagan, and she is mocking Russia, saying that Russia has the best reserves of natural resources. They've got oil, they've got gold, they've got platinum, they've got uranium. They got it all in terms of natural resources. But we here in the UK, we got shit. We got nothing, which is why the UK became a colonialist power, so they could steal everybody else's resources. And she says, but the thing we've got that they don't have is we have integrity. We are Brits, man. We're the best at giving people opportunity and freedom. No, you were the ultimate colonial power. The only worse colonial power than you were the Muslims. And so what you need there, sweetheart, well, you're dead now, was a mirror. Because what you're doing is you're projecting the disgusting nature of the UK on the Russians, while you're nothing but jealous and greedy of the resources, which is what the UK has always been. Let's go steal what others have. This is not the Iron Lady. This is rubbish. Well, we're having fun with politicians today, aren't we?
Yes, indeed.
The Brits are the ultimate expansionists. They try to get into everywhere they could.
What they did to India to rape their resources, what they did to China to rape their resources, what they did to Africa to rape their resources, what they did in shipping slaves to the New World to rape resources. It's one of the most despicable colonial powers in the history of the world. The only one that's worst is Islam. And well, I would say that the Genghis Khan and the Mongol hordes were pretty damn bad too. So you'd have to throw all three of those in. And of course, the Romans were disgusting at it too. So I guess it is a fight for which is the absolute worst colonial power. Would it be the Imperial Romans, the Roman Catholic Church, the Mongols of Genghis and Kublai Khan and then Tamerlane? Would it be Muhammad and the Muslims during the golden era of Islam, or the UK, and what they did in China and India and in Africa and elsewhere?
Well,
it's a hell of a contest.
Never said,
but
sun never set on the British Empire.
Yeah, you are not the good. You're not on the good side there, Margaret. You're the problem, not the cure. So now more and more publications are saying that Ratcliffe went there to scold Putin, to tell Putin, don't you dare attack the Baltic countries like Estonia or Latvia or Lithuania. Don't you dare attack them. Just because they're threatening you, you have no right to attack them. You back down. And don't you dare retaliate against the UK for sending those missiles in to destroy your civilian infrastructure and to kill Russians. Don't you dare do those things. That is the message that the CIA released to every news agency, of course, by an unidentified source. With the unidentified source, all telling each of the disparate news agencies exactly the same lie. Because that's what the CIA does. It lies. It never tells the truth. Even if the truth would suit their interests, the CIA would lie. So if the CIA sources are saying we went there to protect the Balkan countries, which Trump doesn't give a shit about, or the UK, which he doesn't give a shit about, or somehow Ukrainian sovereignty, which he doesn't give a shit about, and you believe them, and you're going to print that in your publication, then you've been played for a fool by the CIA that does that for a living. That's what they do. They lie for a living. So I can tell you that when the informants are all saying the same thing from the CIA, what they're saying is not true. So now that leaves you with, what are they covering up? What they're covering up is weakness. They're not standing for peace. They're not standing to protect anybody. They're covering up abject weakness. He went to beg to have Russia join in the sanctions of Iran and to help get the Strait of Hormuz open. That's what he did. He went in to beg them for that, and Russia said, "Niet. Get the hell out of my country. How dare you sanction us, start a war against us, start a war against our ally, and then come here begging me to bail you out of this war. Get the flock out of my country."
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's all about, because Trump is desperate to end this war that he can't end, because he knows how it ends in the midterms and what that does to his impeachment chances. And so he sent him to threaten Putin over Iran. That's what it was all about. And we know that because that's the only thing that Trump cares about right now. We know that because he sent the CIA chief and not his normal negotiating team. We know that because the mission is secret and he didn't disclose it. And if it was to beg to support the Baltic countries, he would have pounded his chest and say, "I'm the peacemaker, man. I'm telling him what he needs to do. I'm the peacemaker." He'd have bragged all about that on Trump's social, wouldn't he? But the fact that he said nothing and sent this man to do this and had the CIA have this cover story means that he was begging the Russians to bail him out of the mess he made in Iran. That's the truth.
And this was the guy that drew the short straw to carry the message. Rubio, whose job it was like, "I'm not going to Russia and saying that. I'm not going to end up in a gulag." Kushner says, "Oh, hell no, there ain't no money in this. I'm not going." Cliff says, "Trump,
But
you're rich, but you can't pay me enough."
What's our next weekend? Where are we playing golf next weekend?
Yeah.
No, it's pretty obvious why he sent this guy in a military transport, C-17 Globemaster. Why that happened like that? Yeah, it's obvious. Typical Trump. I'm going to threaten you to bail me out of this mess I've made for myself with the closure of the Strait of Hormuz and unable to end the war with Iran. I need you to bail me out because the reserve currency status of the dollar is destroyed by all of this. And oh, by the way, I confiscated, actually my predecessor, but I still keep 300 billion of Russian assets. I have sanctions all over Russia, and I continue to fund and support the war against Russia. And yet I'm here. I'm so effing stupid that I'm here threatening you and begging you to bail me out of the Iran war that I also started. I mean, Putin, if he didn't do this, he missed one of the greatest opportunities ever. Because while the meeting was not scheduled with him and it was with his one of his deputies, the moment this man opened his mouth, I'd have walked into the room if I were Putin. And I'd say, "You need to stand up, but I'm going to tell you something. I want you to record it so that you can play it for that piece of shit president of yours. You started this war against us. You sanctioned us. You stole our money. Russians have died protecting this country from you. You then attacked one of our allies. You killed little schoolgirls. You got in yourself a situation where you can't get out of it. And now you're sanctioning them just like you sanctioned us. And you come here threatening me, begging me to bail you out of this mess under those circumstances. Not only you're going to hell, but you're responsible. Hell no. Now, I do like that C-17 Globemaster. I think I'll keep it. I don't know how you're going to get out of here, but that's your problem. That's what I would have done. And I think I might have reminded him, I said, if we do respond to Lithuania and Estonia and Latvia, it'll be because of what is happening in Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, and what NATO is doing, and them being part of NATO under these circumstances. That is why we will respond. You were the provocateur, they were the provocateur, we would be the responder. And if we choose to destroy Ukraine versus slowly protecting ethnic Russians, I guess you're responsible for that too. And if we retaliate against the UK for killing Russians, well, that will be on them as well.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you very much for the gift of the C-17, and see you later.
Well, Putin's got to see this as a real sign of weakness on Trump's part to even offer something like this.
Oh, of course. Yeah, listen, Putin's gone to the point where he said, I'll go along with Trump, and I'll kiss his ass, and I'll pretend he's an important person, and we'll go through the pretense of negotiating again. He said he wanted to end the war. We want to end the war. We'd much prefer to negotiate the end of the war than have to win on the battlefield. That's better for everybody. So he went to Alaska, and he found that Trump was a worthless piece of shit. And after that, he has no interest in. It's just like Iran. There's no interest in negotiating anymore. Why would you negotiate with a guy that you can't trust?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we are. This is really getting nasty. Yeah, so his deal here is to say that he's playing the Zionist thing. You know how anti-Semites say, I'm not anti-Jewish, I'm anti-Zionism. Well, he's playing the same thing on behalf of Islam. So many people say, I'm opposed to Sharia law. We should say no to Sharia law. And what he is saying is to say no to Sharia law is to say no to Islam. An attack on Sharia, since it's the essence of Islam, is an attack on Muslims. And well, I will grant him that. To know Islam is to hate Islam. No religion has ever been as deceitful, as destructive, or as deadly. Ever. There have been a lot of really bad religions. Islam is the single most delusional, deceptive, destructive, and deadly in all of human history. Should you want to know why, I would say so unabashedly, so unreservedly. Well, then you go read the 5 volumes of Goddamn Religion, and you'll know some of what I know. It's irrefutable. It's based entirely on the Islamic scriptures. To know Islam, to know Muhammad, to know Allah, to know the Quran, to know the Hadith, to know Sharia, is to hate them.
Yeah, you can't hate something you don't know anything about, can you?
Nope. But if you know about it, you absolutely can and should
Mm-hmm.
hate it. This is like the woman walking into that courtroom where her daughter was raped and then murdered. Islam is the most responsible for rape and murder in the planet. What are you going to do?
Mm-hmm.
Are you a patsy? Going to roll over? Going to allow them to rape more and murder more little girls? Is that what you're going to do? Because that's what Islam is.
Mm-hmm.
Are you like that woman who will say, I'm going to defend my daughter's reputation for what you did to her? And or you have the courage to stand up for others? Who are you? Who are you? I had the courage to write it, to share it with you openly.
Mm-hmm.
I've received thousands of death threats for doing so. You don't even have the courage to read it? Who are you? Do you have any character at all? Are you worth the breath that you take in? Or are you just another useless piece of meat on this planet? Who are you? Do you have any values, any courage, any character at all? Who are you? Why do you differ so much from that woman that walked into that courtroom? Ooh. Ooh. You know who this is?
Brzezinski or Soros? I don't.
This is Zbigniew Brzezinski.
Okay.
Oh no, Zbigniew Brzezinski is much worse than Soros. They're not even in the same hemisphere. Zbigniew Brzezinski, chosen by David Rockefeller, one of the most conspiratorial and disgusting people in the history of America. Trilateral Commission. Jimmy Carter's national security advisor. It's Zbigniew Brzezinski who wrote the letter that started the rise in Islamic terrorism. This devil here, deliberately and knowingly, went to Pakistan and assured that Pakistan could complete their nuclear ambitions and that they had the military to impose the military dictatorship over the people by bribing the Pakistanis with U.S. money and with munitions and cover for their nuclear program, so that the U.S. could rent the Taliban, which was an agency of the ISI and the Pakistani military, that we could rent the Taliban in Afghanistan and use them in Afghanistan and arm them in Afghanistan to go kill Russians. And then when there weren't enough Taliban and they weren't educated well enough to deploy the U.S. weapons to take down Russian helicopters and aircraft, surface-to-air missiles is what we gave them. And gave them automatic rifles and machine guns and the like, grenades, mortars. Then it was Zbigniew Brzezinski that went to Osama bin Laden and created the database. Al-Qaeda means the base, the database of more Muslim mujahideen, jihadists, who would be willing to, I hope I can get that to go away here. There we go. I did get it to go away. To more mujahideen, more jihadists, to arm with American weapons so that they then could kill more Russians. And in so doing, in creating Al-Qaeda, he created the very entity that brought down the World Trade Center. He killed 3,000 Americans with that very notion. And he went on to work in the Bush administration as well. What you're looking at here is the long shadow of evil that has long been the power and influence behind the U.S. government. This is one of the most despicable and evil men who has ever lived, Zbigniew Brzezinski. He is responsible for the downing of the World Trade Center. That's on him entirely. The rise of Islamic terrorism via Al-Qaeda is on him entirely. The control of Afghanistan and the butchering of women due to the rise of the Taliban, that's on him. The blaming of Iraq for harboring Al-Qaeda and having weapons of mass destructions when they had none of it, that's on him. Tens of thousands of American soldiers dead, millions of innocent people in the Middle East dead, the destruction of America's reputation, it's on him. This is what you have sponsored, and you paid for it, America. And he was the plans behind the idiocy of Bush and of the peanut farmer Carter. Likely the one who encouraged Carter to bring back the Ayatollah and oust the Shah. This is the face of evil.
He's got to own up for it. He'll get his recompense.
Hold him accountable. He's in the top 100 most evil people who's ever lived. A lot of people have died because of that maniac. So this is Bloomberg that's reporting that the U.S. is trying to revive Civil War era court claims so that it can seize ships on the open sea. It's trying to go back to the Civil War, which wasn't, by the way, very civil. 600,000 Americans died in that useless war. And to do so to legitimize being pirates, thieves. No other purpose than being thieves. America doesn't stand for anything but thievery. Great. We went into Venezuela to steal their oil, and now we're stealing their oil. We're going into Iran to steal their oil, to steal their ships. We went into Ukraine to steal Russian resources. The United States is nothing but a thieving nation. We have replaced the UK. The UK wore out and couldn't do it anymore, and so the United States stepped in, and we are the thieves of the world.
I think they got something now called the Law of the Sea, a treaty that was, I don't know if it's been ratified. They're trying to get it ratified, years ago, but I think that also says you can't do piracy. But I know this is just crazy.
The difference in terms of piracy is really not a fair term because the pirates were democratic. Everybody on those ships was free, regardless of their race or origin or beliefs. And they voted for the captain. They could vote the captain out. They voted for whether or not they would attack. They would vote for how they would distribute the spoils. They got to choose when they wanted to leave. If you're on that in the Navy, you have no control over your life. You can't choose to leave. You have no control as to who the officers are. You can have no accountability. You're the least free person in the world versus the pirates, which were fully democratic and were genuinely free. And the difference, too, is that the pirates stole money from the worst of the worst. They stole money from the Spanish, English, and French monarchs, who were the ultimate money grubbers. So what they were stealing from, they were people who were thieves anyway. So they were stealing from the thieves in a wholly democratic system in opposition to the monarchies. So to call the U.S. military pirates is a disgrace to pirates.
I think the romanticism that we have around Nathan Hayes and the idea of these pirate shows and stuff, it was the Pirates of the Caribbean, all this that romanticizes piracy, as opposed to I am the captain now of the Somali pirates.
Oh, they're quite different. The Somali pirates are religious pirates. They're Muslim pirates. They're thieves because Muhammad wrote in the Quran. Well, he didn't write because he was illiterate, but he said in the Quran, attributing to Allah, that stealing is lawful and good. That's the 8th surah, because the 8th surah justified his thieving raid on his own family at Badr. So stealing is lawful and good. Killing is lawful and good. That's what the 8th surah says. And so the Somali pirates are good Muslims. As for Trump's Navy, they're slaves. They're slaves to Trump. And that's really bad, since Trump's SS, Satan in a suit.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's our last show. But I did put some other. We didn't do this one yesterday. It's just the next group were undisclosed. I just bumped them up, if you will. And in this particular case, this is MBS. Who knows why he's wearing a wristwatch, even a cheap one at that. But nonetheless, that boy's in a world of hurt. He's done it to himself. His ego, after killing Khashoggi and buying respect with Trump so that he could crawl back into a position of favor. And Trump was having, conferences where they had we're going to end the war in Ukraine conferences in Saudi Arabia. And the first country, of course, that Trump visits is Saudi Arabia. And he elevated MBS to a major player on the world stage. And then he not invaded, but he attacked Iran. And Iran retaliated by attacking Saudi Arabia. And he just instantly turned the table, so that Mikey went from, Mohammed here, went from buying prestige through bribing Trump and being a major player on the world stage to digging a hole for himself. Now he's had to bury the whole Noam plan, that line, it's all gone. They lost $50 billion. everything. He has hundreds of billions invested in weapon systems, and he has no one to use them. All squandered. And he's trapped by Iran. After having formed a treaty with Iran, that he orchestrated a treaty with Iran, that's even backfired on him. So all he has now to salvage his transition from crown prince to king is whether or not he can threaten his father into enduring him, or if he can negotiate a deal with the Mecca Accords that brings Iran into it, where he is essentially a vassal of Iran, but a rich damn vassal of Iran.
Yeah, to go from the Abraham Accords to where, I mean, granted,
controlling the world,
Israel was positioned to be, the hegemon to
the Mecca Accords.
Yeah,
the Mecca Accords. Yeah. He was the hegemon of the Middle East with American power, and now Iran is, and he's done.
He's looking for somebody to dance with. He's got nobody.
He is really. I mean, this is a man whose every move has turned to shit.
And
the he's pissed off all the fundamentalists too. He had his whole speech and talked about how the hadith are not true. And so that's an opposition to Sharia law. It's opposition to the essence of Islam. Every pillar of Islam is based on the Hadith, not the Quran. And he says, that the Hadith are not true. And so that speech, he pissed off all the fundamentalists. So he is astonishingly vulnerable. He can't even walk out in public in his own country.
That's quite the drop from best buddies with Trump and all that rich glory, world
2 years.
stuff.
2 years, he's fallen completely.
But belly drop is
yeah, the belly flop, and the world knows it, that he's a pariah. So no, he is not going to be the next Abraham Accord, but he will be the next promoting the Mecca Accords, because that's all he's got. Yeah, this is Yair and Netanyahu with his daddy, and another pro-Israeli account wants to condemn Iran, and they left for Iran threatening to kill him. Excuse me, didn't Israel and the United States kill not only the supreme leader of Iran, killed their nuclear scientists and their families, kill lots of little schoolgirls, maim the son, kill the son's wife, kill the son's daughter? Didn't they do all of these things? And now you're saying that Iran would be wrong to retaliate in kind? No, Iran would be justified in
at least this kid's military age. Right? I mean, when they were taking the Ayatollah around, they had the little baby coffin on the end there that was the new guy's daughter,
So you need to know, Israel, that you need to wake up. You did this to Iran, and now you want to condemn Iran for retaliating? No, it doesn't work that way. Suck it up, Buttercup.
Suck it up.
You made this bed. You can't get out of this bed. You made this bed, and this man smiling and his piece of shit son are vulnerable because of what they did to make all of Israel vulnerable. They made retaliation certain. You know that Iran, because it is such an oppressive, fundamentalist Islamic nation, and the way they oppress women and all minorities in Iran, and the way they promote Islamic terrorism, had every reason to be the most hated nation on earth. And now they're one of the most beloved. And it's all a transfer of hate from Iran to Israel based upon Netanyahu and his policies. Netanyahu actually upended all of this to make Iran sympathetic. The world at large is rooting for Iran. And they're rooting against Israel. And it's the policies of Netanyahu, that smug smile there, that caused that to happen. And yet you have one Israeli podcaster after another that wants to elevate Netanyahu as the solution and as the hero when he's the villain. He isolated, demonized, and has destroyed Israel.
And now they're stuck with him.
It's pretty hard to replace him because there's no combination of opposition parties that can deal with the 20% of the vote that is the Haredi, the parasites, unless they deal with the 20% that are Muslims. And so the question is, what's more deadly, what's more lethal to Israel's existence? Rom, who actually thinks that Israel has a right to be a state and that Jews have a right to be in that state, that'd be Rom, that's the Muslim party. Or is it the Haredi, who don't think Israel has a right to a state and who are nothing but parasites against Israel? Which of those is more destructive to Israel? Because to defeat Netanyahu, you have to form an alliance now with Rom. And my view would be the Haredi parties are far more lethal to Israel than is Rom. And I'm an expert in Islam and know how deadly Islam is. But I'm also an expert on Judaism, and I know that it's a bigger curse to Jews than is Islam. And it's the damn rabbis that created Islam anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are. We'll see if any of this is true. So the initial unconfirmed reports are that Putin was furious at the CIA dictator's threats, telling Russia to reduce its tensions in Ukraine. And I don't think that was ever discussed. But Putin has every right to be furious. He has been betrayed.
Mm-hmm.
He has been treated horribly by Europe, NATO, and the United States. And the only thing that's going to dictate how he responds is what he can achieve. Sure, he'd like to, at this point, wipe America out. He'd like to wipe Europe out. He realizes that you can't do business with him. You can't live with him. He knows that. But he also knows that, he's, maybe has the third largest economy. We look at purchasing power index as opposed to just standard GDP that doesn't care about purchasing power, doesn't equate their currency to what it will actually buy. It's the third largest economy in the world. China's number one, US number two, Russia number three. With that economy under sanctions, and with the ongoing war in Ukraine and with Europe aiding that war, there's only so much he can do at one time. You can proceed to push west to finish off all the protection of the oblasts and go all the way to the Dnieper River. I'm sure he'd like to do that. That's a big effort, and it's going to be shut down in about a month, where he's going to have to wait till next spring to go at that again. I'm sure he'd like to take Odessa, but instead of taking Odessa and risking Russian lives, he's just made Odessa useless, rendered it completely inoperative. I'm sure he'd like to completely destroy all transportation lines through Poland and other Eastern European countries to supply weapons to Ukraine, but he's taken out all their locomotives so that they don't have any rail service anymore. And he's taken out the Danube as a source of transportation, and of course eliminated Odessa and the Black Sea. So he's gone a long way in that regard. I'm sure he would like to eliminate all manufacturing of weapons systems in Kiev area, and he's done a big job in that recently. But he's also suffering blows along with it, and it's a matter of how many of these blows can I suffer before I'm going to have to put Ukraine out of its misery, so they just don't do this anymore. And then if you add that under sanctions and an economy that he has on a war footing to invading and occupying Lithuania and Latvia, Estonia, that's a big demand on resources. Should happen. He'd be right to make it happen, but it's a big demand on resources. And then you want to add to that making the UK pay for sending missiles into Russia to kill Russians. That's another big bite, because now you're dealing with NATO even more aggressively. So he has to be prudent as to what he can do, because if he does everything that he wants to do, he will accomplish nothing and will destroy Russia, as opposed to win this gradual march forward. That's where we are.
That's a lot to digest.
That is a lot to digest, but that's where we are. Yeah, it's you have to understand what he has to work with, what he is justified in doing. He's justified in doing everything I just mentioned. In fact, he really should be doing everything that I've just mentioned, and has every legal basis to do so. But he can't do all of those things. It's just like the United States. We too many conflicts. The Ukrainian conflict, the Iranian conflict, the Venezuelan, South American conflicts, the Canadian now conflict, the wanting to have a conflict with Cuba, the conflict with China, the conflict with Europe. You just, and then the conflict to try to save the U.S. dollar as a reserve currency by using the currency as a weapon against everybody. Being the flailing animal caught in the corner in the trap. America is way too extended and doesn't have the resources to do any of these things, and is bankrupting the country. So he can't do a Trump, and he's too smart to be a Trump. Now, this is amongst the top 10 most evil people in the world. This is the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem. He is the man that tortured and perpetrated apartheid and genocide on Jews under the authority of the British government. He is the man who went to Hitler in, I think it was November of 1941, to lobby Hitler on the idea of exterminating Jews rather than exiling them. And it was 2 months later that the final solution was drafted, and Jews went to the extermination camps. Now, prior to that, the only killing of Jews in mass numbers was done in the Baltic countries, the same countries we've been talking about, Lithuania, for example, Latvia, and in the Ukraine, which was the worst, where they were bullets. Some fighting for breath. That's the only way that it was handled in those countries that were the most anti-Semitic. But the whole idea we're going to mass exterminate 6 million Jews, that came as a result of this meeting. And then to encourage Hitler to go along with his solution, he promised to have a Muslim group of SS, the only non-Germans that were part of the SS. And so there was a whole Muslim SS brigade. And they were, by the way, active in the Balkans in Croatia, where they partnered with the Roman Catholic Croats to kill other Christians and mostly Jews. So this is the history of the beginning of the merger between Marxism and Muslims. And since that time, Marxists and Muslims have killed 200 million people. This is the very religion that Harvard is partnering with and promoting. This is the very religion that the Democratic Party in America is partnering with and promoting. They're promoting the merger of Muslims and Marxists. And this is what it has cost. This is its history. That is, again, the face of pure evil.
Well, you're the guy that gets to deal with all that. So and Bashar, you're almost catching up to us in the family show menorah episodes. You're going to run up against us here real soon.
Yeah, I've still got a ways. I've still got a ways to go, but I will finally make that rendezvous, and I'll jump to where you are on the family hour. The Bashar Herald presentation and Coming Home 4 is profoundly important. That we went into the food discussion and debating Deuteronomy 12 because the nitwits of the Mother Goddess cult decided they would hurl that at me as a way to try to discredit me, and they were vicious about it. And so I had to go back there and represent what was in an Introduction to God, Volume 1. And when I did, what I did not know is that the preamble to it was a prophecy condemning them. Right. Exactly what they have done. But every time that we have been brought in to defend something like modesty, for example, the whole discussion on don't be modest is a prophecy condemning them. Their claim that God's a transvestite, a hermaphrodite, the very passages they quote condemn them and contain prophecies that condemn them. Their attack on the Choter, saying it's a messianic figure, we went back to it and said, oh my God, this is so much richer, so much deeper, so much more powerful than we'd ever thought, and condemns them. And time again, it's always the same, is that Yahweh has a prophecy to have our back. And that's what we found out happened in Devarim 12. The thing they decided to bring against us is the very thing that God uses to defend us. God's pretty serious. He forms an alliance with somebody and says, you're my guy. I want this done. I need this fixed, and I need someone that'll see it through. He has your back, and he has your back thousands of years before you even ask him. Right. In fact, you never have to ask him. And he just sits there and smiles and said, see, I had a resolution here for you. Didn't even need to ask.
Right.
So, we'll get caught up on it. So thank you, gentlemen. We are at 2 hours and 21 minutes. Our original intent to get this under 2 hours on a regular basis. I'm not doing very well, but nevertheless, look forward to doing a new Bashar Herald with you. I'm delighted to have that new introduction. Boy, that was the first time we got to play it live was yesterday. That is really a professional introduction. I know that Leah was the driver of it, but I'm sure she had help from others, including you, Kevin. It's a beautiful piece. Really, really professionally. The thing is now that on a lot of the branding pieces, from the songs to the introductions that we have, the branding is better than the person who is speaking in between the intros and outros. So
the pressure's on, huh?
Yeah, the pressure's on. I'm actually delighted to report that I am being outperformed by the team as a whole. And I would say the family page now is better than any other thing we're doing on our website. Although, well, I'd say second. I think the talking page turning books that Joe has created are pretty magnificent. And I will say that now we finally have Leah back finishing the images for that timeline. That timeline is pretty darn spectacular.
Yeah.
To give you an idea of where we are and how the story has played out throughout time. But the internal communication capabilities with the chat and the messaging is marvelous. The family page is just really stupendous. So it's become quite a website. I'm proud to call that our home. A home for Yahweh's name. All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Hey there. Thanks for tuning in. That was Fetch. Gotta run now. Catch Yao on our next podcast.